favor de hacerle clic a la pantalla, a la parte de abajo de la pantalla donde dice interpretación. Gracias. All over the place with that translation. All right, and with that, I will call this meeting to order. And Dr. Joyner, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we'll start with public participation. Dr. Joyner and Dr. White.
I'll let you know when I'm ready, Dr. White. Let me set my timer. Okay, you have 3 minutes, and I will let you know when you have finished using your time, and you should complete your sentence and end your comment. Thank you.
Our first speaker is Anika Singh Lamar.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. My name is Anika Singh Lamar. I'm a parent at East Rock School. My children are in 6th and 3rd grade. I also have a little one who will be starting kindergarten there next year. I'm here tonight to express concern about the anticipated transfer of our assistant principal, Leslie DePriest, out of the school into another school in the district. I am a devoted member of the PTO, have served on the SPMT. To my knowledge, this has not been raised with either body. The first we heard of it was Friday evening. I understand that some amongst you might think it's not your job to second guess the superintendent's staffing decisions, but this is not just a staffing decision. It also is about process. Parents have not been consulted. The SPMT has not been consulted. And it feels very, very sudden. We barely had time to organize parents at all around the issue over the weekend. And it feels extraordinarily disempowering in ways that are outlined in a letter from multiple members of the PTO, including myself, that hopefully you received at noon today, due to really extraordinary work by our PTO president to mobilize people at really the very last minute. We are an active school body. I don't know, even if we weren't, active parents in our students' educational lives, I would hope that you all would have the decency to consult with us before moving our assistant principal out. Ms. DePriest has been at the school for about 20 years. She is a lot of our institutional memory and heart. I'm sure you're all aware of the difficulties a number of our students in the district have had adjusting back to post-COVID times, and she just has extraordinary relationships with many of our students. I'm not sure why we would disrupt that at this time. So I would implore you all to slow this down. Again, I think it's really important that the school community be consulted and that we be part of any decision-making around a lateral transfer of our assistant principal out of our school into another school in the district. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leslie Blateau.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Blateau. I'm a New Haven parent, teacher, and the president of the New Haven Federation of Teachers. In a little over an hour, the Board of Alders will meet at City Hall to approve the city's budget. If this budget, which includes a $4.5 million increase for our schools, is approved, it will be the largest increase to our school budget in many years. Over the last 6 years, the Alders have funded only about 51% of what the mayor has proposed. And this year, the Alders decided to fund 90% of the $5 million requested. But let's be clear, this kind of shift doesn't happen on its own. It's a direct result of organizing, advocacy, and activism. And I want to thank the members of NHFT and AFSCME Local 3429 who joined with our community to march, testify, and make phone calls for a fairly funded school budget. We're glad to see the impact of our efforts at this evening's Alders budget vote. This grassroots advocacy is one example of how NHFT educators give back to our school communities. As president, I have the honor of representing 1,800 members, and I hear from them daily. It's important that this board also hears about our educators' efforts. As we speak, we're supporting and celebrating our students' growth, earning advanced degrees, organizing and chaperoning proms, field trips, field days, and graduations, maintaining communication with families as children work to manage the stress and trauma of the pandemic. We're sponsoring fundraising campaigns to ensure adequate funding, and we're supporting our colleagues as more and more staff isolate and recover from COVID, and we continue to deal with the fallout of understaffing. We do this because we recognize what our school communities need, and we care deeply about our schools and our students. And even amidst these efforts, many of our members are navigating tension, stress, and demoralization in our workplaces because our needs are not met. We need to have a seat at the table when it comes to the decision-making that impacts our communities. We need clear protocols for how to ensure our schools can be as safe as possible. We need access to information so we can understand the thinking behind the decisions that impact us. And we need to be treated as professionals who understand the needs of our students and who can work collaboratively to solve problems. The national teacher shortage crisis is taking its toll on New Haven, but New Haven has the opportunity and the tools to interrupt this crisis and ensure our schools are fully staffed in the fall. And we look forward to this work ahead. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Anna Pickett.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Anna Pickett, and I'm on the PTO at the East Rock Community Magnet School. As Anika Singh-Lamar has already discussed with you about, I just wanted to follow up and say that I concur with her and the am disappointed in the decision to transfer Mr. Priest from our school. She's been a pillar of our community for nearly 2 decades, and she leads our SST team and serves as the main administrator for our middle school students. She supports our PTO and our student government and manages way too many things to count. Our administrative team is small but mighty. It works because Mr. Priest is the glue that holds our school together, with many years of institutional knowledge and strong relationships with our students and their families, our teachers, and our staff. Mr. Priest and our principal Breland they're a dynamic duo, and they work very well together and keep a tight ship at our school. To take Mr. Priest from our community at this time would be very disruptive to our students' experiences. Her deep and long-standing relationships with her families, with the students' families, teachers, and support systems are instrumental to our students' well-being, their mental health, and their academic success. I was part of the process to hire our current principal, Breland, when our principal, Pele, retired in the spring of 2018. And Dr. Tracy conducted the interviews with our SPMT team. We interviewed 7 very strong candidates for the position, including Ms. DePriest, and as a SPMT committee, Ms. DePriest was our top candidate. Dr. Tracy might recall that the district surprised us in the late summer of 2018 by hiring Dr. Breland as our principal, who was not on our interview pool, but she's an excellent principal, and we're really happy that we have her. It's just the process of not having the SPMT's input or their opinion was really disempowering to us. And so to take Ms. DePriest from us now when she's our top candidate for our principal back then just feels especially harsh right at this moment. So I implore you to consider consulting the SPMT and the PTO at our school, and to respect our opinions, as we are the experts of our school's needs. A lot of people have signed this letter that we drafted this morning. There are 8 parents and a couple of teachers on this, and most of us are parents of older students who would be impacted most by Ms. Priest's support at the school. So Thank you for hearing from me.
Our next speaker is Alberto Tabra. Alberto Tabra.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Education members. My name is Alberto Tabra. I am the Vice President of PTO at John C. Daniels School. I am here to speak to you tonight about the proposal to remove Vice Principal Perez from our school. Ms. Perez came to our school almost 3 years ago, at the time when our school community had been through several administrative changes. Our students and staff have seen principals and vice principals come and go what seems to be a regular basis. These kinds of actions make it difficult for our students to be able to trust the school leaders and to form relationships with them. When Ms. Perez came to our school, she immediately began getting to know the students, making them aware that she was there to support them alongside our principal, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Perez has proven to be an integral part of our school community. In this day and age, it is so important for students to have consistency and dependability at school. But voting to remove Ms. Perez, you will be taking away a leader and possibly, influence, that possibly influences our children every day. This would be a huge disappointment to our school body that has had suffered more than enough disappointment in the past 11 years. We need our students to move forward with an administration who has their best interests at heart. Ms. Perez is a huge part of the administration. As a PTO, we understand that sometimes change has to happen when it is for the best. However, as a PTO, we also have to protect the social and emotional wellness of our students. We firmly believe that the proposal to remove Ms. Perez from JCD is not a change for the better. Please do not accept the proposed transfer of Ms. Perez. We need to keep her at JCD so our children can continue to grow in the best environment possible. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Heather O'Brien.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. I'm Heather O'Brien, the literacy coach at John C. Daniels, and I'm speaking tonight in regards to the proposal of our assistant principal, Jacinia, being transferred. Since coming to John Daniels in the 2019-2020 school year, Ms. Perez has provided strong leadership, especially through the difficult time of COVID and the transition back to in-person learning. Consistency of our already established strong administrative team is needed as we continue into hopefully our first normal school year since the start of COVID. Because we are a dual language school with a high number of Spanish-speaking students and parents, it is imperative to have 2 bilingual administrators and 2 administrators who have a good understanding and are knowledgeable about our dual language program. During COVID, there was a strong focus on mental health and well-being. As we continue to work to rebuild and recover from the impact of COVID, the proposed transfer of Mrs. Perez would most definitely have a negative effect on all stakeholders, including morale, mental and emotional health, and overall well-being. During her time at JCD, Mrs. Perez has formed strong bonds and relationships with students, parents, and staff. She always makes herself available and is supportive in all areas. Her positive attitude and approach to problem solving has greatly impacted our school environment. This year, Mrs. Perez and I have worked very closely with our 7th grade, especially one class 7B. We have already discussed plans for this class next year, their graduating year, which we intend to implement together. In closing, transferring Ms. Perez at this time is unfair and a disservice to all stakeholders in our John C. Daniels community. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Sophia Diaz.
Hi. My name is Cassandra Diaz. The Zoom is under my daughter, who is a student at John C. Daniels. I am a parent of 3 children at John C. Daniels. I have a 5th grader, a 2nd grader, and a preschooler there. I am here to express my concerns regarding the transfer of our assistant principal, Jasenia Perez. In the 6 years my family has been at John C. Daniels, we have had 4 sets of administrators, and we have truly struggled with the lack of leadership we could trust. Our current administration just had their feet in the door when COVID shut us down. In a time of great uncertainty, Ms. Perez emerged as a strong leader. Families quickly realized they could call upon her for answers and perhaps most importantly, comfort. Parents may not have been allowed inside the building, but they were still included and kept informed. The students have lost so much, and taken away someone who has given them structure and consistency is yet another loss they are now facing. And a loss that is coming at a time when their social and emotional well-being is so fragile. How much more do our students have to lose? How are we so willing to risk their emotional stability? Ms. Perez is an integral part of our JCD community, and having her removed at this time would have a negative impact on all stakeholders. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Kristen Rodriguez.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Rodriguez, and I am a New Haven parent and educator at Brennan Rogers. Trust, retention, collaboration, communication, consistency. These are just a few norms that help foster a thriving school community. Without trust, you will not retain teachers. Without retention, collaboration, communication, and consistency cannot thrive. We were blindsided at Brennan reading the Blue Sheet Friday night and learning of the sudden transfer of our assistant principal, Carissa Stolzman. Her innovative, energetic, collaborative, no-fault problem-solving approach to education made it easy to trust her and easy to cultivate a school community that thrived under her leadership. I know the sentiment of downtown. It is our right, and we don't have to share our decisions with you. And you are absolutely correct. If you want to continue losing teachers at Brennan and throughout the district at a rapid rate, if you want to continue cultivating a culture and climate of distrust, of faulted problem solving, one that lacks communication, transparency, and collaboration, then please, by all means, continue on the current trajectory. If you decide to keep traveling down this slippery slope, please remember these words by the great Nelson Mandela. If you want the cooperation of humans around you, you must make them feel they are important. And you do that by being genuine and humble. So I encourage you to do better, to be genuine, to be humble, to be human, so that we may be collaborative and grow a community that fosters and cares about trust, communication, transparency, and retention. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David Lowe.
Good evening. Hi, I'm David Lowe. I teach at Sound School in New Haven. I'm also the vice president for high schools for the New Haven Federation of Teachers and the co-chair with Yamara Vasquez of the Education Committee for the New Haven Federation of Teachers. Just wanted to introduce myself. I've been absent from board meetings with a busy Monday schedule for some time, and there are lots of new people. And I just want to thank you for your service to the board, and say in the future, I look forward to the cooperation and collaboration of the New Haven Federation of Teachers and all teachers in general with the board and the administration in bringing our issues to light and working collaboratively to make them better. And you notice some of the things you've been hearing tonight are about process. So we'll certainly be bringing process issues, even though lots of the results and decisions that can be made without a long process or an inclusive process might even be the right decisions, as you heard previously. It's how people feel matters, and whether people feel good about what happens in their schools affects how they perform in their schools, and ultimately that affects children. So we want to make sure that processes put in place are sound ones, and that they get followed and adhered to if and when possible. So I look forward to having conversations about things such as mastery-based, competency-based, standards-based learning, personalization. There's lots of opportunities to use technology more and better than we have. And numerous times research on the start times for high school students have been raised, and they've been not fully examined and addressed, and mostly solutions haven't been found, but lots of research shows that we should be starting late for the older students and earlier for the younger, not the way we do it, even though we have a busing issue and sports issues, but those can be overcome. Anyway, issues like this, lots of things to look forward to talking about. I do want to just put in a plug for the Stream Carnival coming up. You should be looking for an email from Gemma Joseph Lumpkin. That should be coming to you in your email soon if you haven't gotten it already. And Stream is sort of like STEM, but with arts and reading addition added to the mix. So that is on June 5th. It's going to be at the Clinton Avenue School, and look for that sign up and information coming from Gemma soon. Thanks very much for your time.
Our next speaker, please state your full name when you come on. Jane F.
Hi, my name is Jane Roth, and I've been a special ed resource teacher in New Haven for 22 years. The last 6.5 years, I've been the special ed resource teacher at John C. Daniels. I have also been a union steward in the city for 17 years, and I have been the SPM facilitator for John C. Daniels for several years. During my time at Daniels, we have had 4 principals and 4 assistant principals. Now, remember, I've only been there 6.5 years. With such constant change, the school is not always run smoothly. In fact, speaking as the union steward, we have had some very serious issues. Finally, we have an excellent pairing, Tina Mitchell, principal, and Jacinia Perez, assistant principal. Since I wear so many hats, I have had to meet with both of them on many occasions and for many reasons. I can assure you that they work like a well-oiled machine. Each has her own specialty. Moving Ms. Perez because you need a Spanish-speaking administrator in another school is irresponsible. No one was consulted. There was no consensus by SPMT for her replacement. Ms. Perez has warm, meaningful relationships with students and teachers that, especially in this COVID climate in which everything has been turned upside down, is more valuable than ever. This decision just doesn't feel like the old slogan, kids first. As teachers, we are always getting emails regarding our wellness and how much we need to take care of ourselves. Removing Jacinia Perez, a pillar of the John C. Daniels community, will not help the cause for either students or for the teachers. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker, again, also please state your full name, is Micah Ma. Please state your name. Mike Ma. We'll move on. Our next speaker is Ortiz. Please state your full name. Ortiz, please state your full name. You may begin speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Viviana Ortiz. I am the dual language coach at John C. Daniels School, and I'm speaking to you today about the transfer of our assistant principal, Jasenia Perez. Jasenia Perez is an integral part of our school. She's a visible administrator, a hands-on administrator, a follow-through administrator. She is always communicating with parents and staff, and she follows through. She knows our dual language, she supports our dual language program, and she helps all the students and teachers when needed. Losing Jasenia will be detrimental to our school community because we rely on her expertise and most of all, her knowledge. Her and Tina Mitchell are a good pair of administrators, and I do not understand why we need to remove them from working together to another school. That just doesn't make any sense to me. When things are going well, we should celebrate them. Instead, it seems like we're getting punished. So I am asking the board to please, please, please not approve the transfer of Jasenia Perez. Thank you for your time.
Madam President, that concludes all the hands raised at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner and Dr. White. Mr. Fiore, do you have a question before we move on?
I do. I understand that we're not allowed to comment or talk really about the public comments, but I guess my question is there a way where we could have something said on the public comments into an item for the next meeting on the agenda?
Such as?
Just just talking about it, because I know, am I correct in saying that we're not allowed to really discuss what was said in the public comments because we don't understand or we haven't researched the topic beforehand?
You're correct that we don't respond to public comments, right?
Yeah. So I was wondering if maybe there's a way where we can put this on for the next meeting, for the next agenda, where we can talk about what was said for this meeting.
So if you're thinking about the personnel issues, there is an action item and discussion on the personnel report. There may be some discussion then. And then if not, then if you want something on the agenda, just let me know.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so we'll move on to the action items. The first being the approval of the board meeting minutes of May 9th. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Goldson?
I guess I'll move approval of the board minutes.
Thank you. Is there a
I'll second.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. Any discussion? Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. I've noticed this is the last couple of meetings that I've been at because I was away for a little while. I've noticed on attendees, there's two issues that I've noticed that I wanted to comment on. One is the attendees present. And when it says attendees present, I'm assuming that it means board members, but it continues to list Dr. Tracy in that list. I would propose that we have another row that would say board members present, that there'll be another row that says other attendees or something like that. Because, you know, I'm kind of a stickler with this. I've been through it so many times on the different boards that I've sat on. It's, you know, when questions arise about what happened in the past, that we go back and look at the minutes. If the minutes are not clear, it leads to confusion. Dr. Tracy is not a member of the board. She's a valuable member. She's a valuable resource to this board and to the system, but she's not a member of the board. So I would hope that we would reformat that so that it's clear that it's either board members present and that it's also Dr. Tracy if somehow you want to do that. But there should be a note that she's not a member of the board.
Yeah, I believe it's my understanding that Dr. Tracy is an ex officio board member. So maybe just to list that next to her name.
Well, she's actually not an ex officio member either, because the charter is the ruling document for this board, and also the state statutes in another of neither of those members list the superintendent as an ex official member of the board, nor does our bylaws. And if you look at the definition of ex official, it's usually I think it's defined as a person who still has all rights as a board member. She's never been a member of the board, so she's not an ex official member either, unless you redefine. I mean, I looked it up today because I was, I had that thought also, and the definition of ex official.
You're muted, Mr. Bolton.
The definition of ex official does not take into account the role that she has at this moment.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a look at that and take that into consideration.
Should I raise my second issue, or should I wait?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. The second issue is that it has a footnote for both Miss, is it Roman or Romaine?
Ramon.
Ramon. Miss Ramon and Mr. Fiore. It has a footnote for both of them as non-official, not official, non-voting members. They are still members of this board, and we all have different roles on this board, right? Or are appointed by different, for different reasons. For instance, Dr. Joyner and I are elected members to the board. Mayor Justin is elected. It serves as the mayor. So if we're going to define people's places on the board, we should either define everybody's place on the board or don't define anyone's place. I feel a little uncomfortable kind of separating them out with that footnote when they are actually members of this board. Now they may play a little bit of a different role because right now they don't have the right to officially vote, or their vote's not counted, which is I hate to say, because it sounds like a lot of our citizens in this country not having their votes counted, but they are members of this board. So I would either want to remove those footnotes or add everybody's designation to this list. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you. I was just going to suggest that when it comes to listing the board members as present or not present, that it could be very easily taken care of as board members present, as was suggested, and then, top level administration also present, not present, which I would think would be that top layer of management, Dr. Tracy and her executive team, if we wanted to keep track of that. But I have no opinion to express at this time on the other point, but I think that it does make sense to be precise there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Any further discussion on meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to approve the May 9th board meeting minutes. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Mr. Fiore?
Yes.
Ms. Rahman?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, and then so the minutes pass. Next, we have the personnel report, Dr. Tracy.
Good afternoon or good evening, board. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you also for recognizing that there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you, Darnell, for pointing out those information may not seem significant, but those are, I know you're a detailed person, so we need to abide by what you just pointed out. So thank you. So at this time, we have a personnel report. We have the action items here on the superintendent's personnel report. As you know, that this year has seen the highest retirements among our principals group. And next year, we are going to see another group leaving New Haven because they've reached the stage of retirement, both principals and APs. We have interviewed and filled many of them and have also transferred some APs to some of these vacancies based on the needs of the district. As we look across the district, we have to make decisions about where people are fitting in. We have to make decisions as we look forward to next year when we'll have some more principals leaving our district. One of my goals is to ensure that assistant principals get a chance to work in different environments. And so when we call upon them to be principals or when they apply to be principals, they've had, experiences in different aspects of the district. So we do not take this lightly. I know I am so glad that people love the administrators that we've placed in their schools. That's a good thing, that they're loved and appreciated. That's what we want to happen in just about all schools. And changing anyone is not easy. I also want to make sure that there's some misinformation pointed out about SPMT, the role of the SPMT. I'm an SPMT person. The role of the SPMT is not to decide who the superintendent moves or places. The role of the SPMT has to do in a great part when we're selecting a principal for a school, that they have an idea of who the person is and also give their input. And from that, the superintendent makes a decision. And then there are times when principals have to be placed. So I just want to clarify that because I think for those of us who have been around for a long time, under the COMA model, we understand the SPMT process and the roles of SPMTs in our schools. So I just wanted to point that out. At this time, I'm asking the board to accept the personal report, and then I'll call, before you accept it though, I want to say, my heart bleeds to Mr. Jaime Ramos. This is his second retirement. He retired from the police force or the military, which of them?
Police.
From the police force, and now he's retiring from the role of an administrator. So I want success to Mr. Jaime Ramos, who is the current principal of Hill Central School. So, board, you have the names of the individuals who are put forth for hire. We have principal for Cross, John Parker. We have Stephanie Skiba, principal for Barnard School. And then we have a number of other assignments at the bottom of the blue sheet, as you see. So I'm now asking for the board to approve the personal report as is.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, I move we approve the action items of the superintendent's personnel report.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Bolton?
So I had my hand up. I don't know if Donnell's hand is. He's not.
I'll let Dr. Joyner go first. That's fine.
Go ahead, Dr.
I'd like to add further, I guess, information to the whole notion of the role of the SPMT in schools and actually explain why it's not wise for the SPMT to either say who stays or who leaves. And actually, Michael Benavi and I wrote the manual on that. Dr. Comer, as you know, created the first program in New Haven and at Brennan and at Martin Luther King. And what he realized is that in a large system, you have to have clear lines of authority based on people's credentials and so on and so forth. And because of the flux in schools, parents coming and going and so on and so forth, you could not have an SPMT that would paralyze the principal or the assistant principal or the superintendent or any of the people that are the professionals hired to run organizations within the district. Just like certain groups shouldn't paralyze a mayor, governor, or president. And so it was agreed that the way we would train people, and we train people from all over the world and in 29 states in the United States, to help them understand initially that the job of the SPMT was to work with the school officials to develop a comprehensive plan based on the developmental needs of kids, and that it was not to get involved in personnel matters. When you run a large system like ours, I think we're the largest system in the state, and you have 44 schools, you have to make decisions based on the interests of the entire system. And oftentimes when people are moved, it is because they are deemed to be in a position to move up, across and up, given their performance in the previous school. When I left Hill House in I believe I left in 86. I wanted to be the principal at Hill House, but it was that I should go to Jackie Robinson, and I had a great time there. And but the PTA at the time had no say in that matter. And so it is not a sound structure, even though I understand the emotion of the parents. And I also understand what it's like when I'm having some technical problems. Can people still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll do that. I should have turned this off. But...
We can hear a phone ringing too.
Okay, so when I left, it was, I guess the people there, they wanted somebody else as well. But 4 years later, we did quite well there, and what have you. So it's really important to understand that. It doesn't mean that we don't care about folks' emotions and feelings and so on and so forth. But what it means is that the reality of running a very large school district where you have to make hundreds of decisions. In fact, Madeline Hunter said it's a constant stream of decision making. It's the same thing running a large complex city, running a large organization as a governor or what have you. So we make decisions like that, and actually the superintendent makes decisions like that based on information that's sometimes only known to her and the people that supervise those folks. And it is emotionally laden, and I understand that. But we also have to think about the greatest good for the greatest number. And that's why we cannot allow bodies like SPMTs and PTOs to make decisions on who's the principal and who's not the principal. If they can make decision on who stays, they can also make decision on who goes. And when you get into that, it becomes a real problem, because now you're getting into people's rights, and you might not be in a position to know as much about situations, and you're making decisions based on your emotional needs. And I understand that, but it's just not the best way to run a system for the best interest of the kids.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to point out to the folks who spoke up today that the items that they asked us to table are not even on the agenda for us to table. Apparently, approval transfers are not put before the board for approval. I guess we decided a while back that it was the superintendent and her team's purview to make lateral transfers and so on. And so it's not on the agenda for us to vote on or even to discuss tonight. But what I would like to say is that life for us would be a whole lot easier, and for the superintendent, I think, if, because I don't think that these people were asking to actually be able to make the decision. I think what they were asking was to have some input before the final decision was being made, and a little bit of heads up that the decision was going to be made before it was made. I'm not in the room when those kind of decisions are made around those administrative movements. I grew up in this system, and I remember, and maybe Dr. Joyner has a different memory because he was older and he was an administrator, but I remember administrators holding positions for a long time. I mean, generations almost, that that we had principals and assistant principals in one school, and that folks were used, and coaches and so on. And folks were used to. They knew that their kids were eventually going to be going to that school and have that leadership team at that school. But with that being said, if superintendent and her team's choice, and I hope maybe in the future that there be a little more advance notice to those bodies in those schools, to those organizations in those schools, and that that they be given an opportunity to at least voice their opinions before they come to the board and do that. I'm hoping that for the future. Otherwise, we're not voting on that stuff tonight. It's not on the agenda at the table. I don't think we're going to be adding it up to the agenda to be tabled. So I'm going to support the blue sheet as it is. I would like to say that I did notice there's another Bonanno on the blue sheet, and that's a huge family. Do we hire everybody from the Bonanno family, or? I love them, by the way. I love them. So that's not a shot at them. They're all very capable. I used to work with one of them at City Hall 20 years ago, so 25 years ago. So I support the blue sheet as it is, and unfortunately we don't have an opportunity to discuss the other issues that were raised earlier today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golson. Mayor Elicker, Ms. Lamont, and then Mr. Fiore.
Thanks, Madam President. Yeah, just to add to what Mr. Golson said, just to be clear, so the board has authority for hires to approve Dr. Tracy's recommendations for hires, promotions, but not transfers. And so technically, the board doesn't have the authority here. The authority lies solely in Dr. Tracy's hands. Nevertheless, I think it is a good question about notification, because I think the point of it's hard for families that get used to an administrator, for teachers and students that get used to administrator to transition. They develop relationships with the individuals. There's an unknown about what individual is going to take their place. And I just wanted to ask Dr. Tracy what typically you do for as far as notification or engagement with parents or anything when you do transfers like this.
So going from past practice, you really do not have to inform parents nor teachers about transfers of, APs, but we would do so when we're transferring principals out of the building. APs are a different story. They're not, we don't notify them. And usually, let me say this, past practice, many people would have known that way in the summer. What I'm trying to do is get things done early rather than in the summer, and Darnell has been around for a while, rather than in the summer, start moving people. Some people will come back from vacation and hear that they're being moved. I don't function that way. I gave the APs, we had conversation in AP meeting, and I told them that I'm thinking of some movement in order to look at the broader district and its work. I also said that to principals. I have not moved any principals yet, because then I look at some other things, but we have moved some of the APs as we look at the broader district and its needs. This is not just no AP or principal is hired to serve in any one school. They're hired to serve the district as a whole. So the superintendent has, his or her, whoever they are, prerogative to look at the needs of the district right across and put people according to their strength levels and in supporting schools. Now, it's interesting that I heard about John C. Daniels. I'm the one who hired those people. I'm the one who transferred Yesenia there. So I'm glad that they love her so much because it means was a good thing. But their needs of the district, not that John C. Daniels and other schools don't have needs, but I have to look at the much broader picture that a lot of people don't know about or can look at. They don't have that knowledge. So I have to use my knowledge of the district and make the moves that best fit the needs of the district.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And even though we don't legally have the authority, I actually don't think we should override these type of decisions of yours. Anyhow, you have the whole district in mind, and I'm sure it's very complicated to figure out where the right fit is for everyone. Also want to say I appreciate I think one might think that, oh, they're being transferred, something might not be working out or something, but I appreciate your sharing that this actually is an opportunity for people to get more exposure, and it may be supporting them in a pipeline for them to actually be promoted. I thought that was something really important to share publicly. I would say, as much as you and your team have capacity to engage parents early on, families early on with these types of things, I think we heard from some parents that are, disappointed or about losing someone that they think is really good for their school. And as much as we can to engage people early on is always a good thing, even though we may not have to. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mayor Elder and Dr. Tracy. Ms. Roman?
I just have a question. So for the assistant principals, do they have a say in being transferred, or is this like all just something that just happens and they have to just go along with it?
They do not have a say in being transferred. They're hired for the work of the district. And so where it's deemed necessary to move an assistant principal to, we move, and even for that matter, principals. Thank you, Ms. Shai, for that question.
Thank you, Ms. Roman. Mr. Fury?
First, I'd like to say, after hearing the glowing reviews from the public comments, I would love to meet Ms. Perez. She seems like a lovely person, and I thank her for everything she's done in her school. I would like to say that, and Dr. Tracy, what you said about how you have the grand view of New Haven, I would like to thank you for that, because that's very hard to do, and a lot of people can't process that, me and myself included. But I do want to give the perspective of a student in this case, which is it's very hard when transferring assistant principal or principal around. And yes, for the greater scheme of things, it is good for the district. But for the school individually, I can say I've had a lot of administrative people leave me to go someplace else for the better. It's very tough. The school notices it. To give you an example, Matt, who worked at HSC, he went to a different district to work. One of the best teachers I've known. I just want to give the perspective that's really hard. Ms. Perez is going to be sorely missed by the students, by the faculty, by the parents. And you said that the PTO people, and that was agreed on, that they don't really have a say in this case as to who gets to move. Now, I do understand that, but I do want to emphasize that they're not just PTO, they're the parents, and they have kids that go to these schools, and that they can understand the impact of someone leaving. And that's what I want to emphasize that. Yes, they may not have an official say on who gets to stay and who gets to go for how long, but as parents, they do have a say. As parents, they do have a say on how the schools are run. Thank you.
I agree with you, Anthony. They have a say in how the school is run as they work through the SPMTs in the school, but not in terms of administration and administrative moves or hires. That's a prerogative of the superintendent, hired as the CEO to run the district. And I do understand, I don't want to seem callous or anything, because I myself was moved around and I took it, and here I am today. And we moved to different environments, and I learned from different environments, and here I am sitting today. So moving someone is not such a bad thing. And I understand the hurt of people. When I was moved, I had students who cried, I had parents who complained, and it's always going to be like that. It's never going to be no one is going to care. They care about their administrators, and I know that. I care about my administrators. And a lot of people may not understand as we work out the puzzle. It's like working on the puzzle, Anthony. It's like working on a puzzle. One drops here, one moves here, one goes there. We have to work out the puzzle in the best interest of the district.
Thank you for hearing me out. I wasn't trying to change your mind or anything like that. I just wanted to express the opinion of, I think, many students when things like this happen. So thank you so much.
The diplomat.
Thank you, Mr. Fiore. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, thank you. First, just like to acknowledge what folks are already acknowledging, which is this is a painful process, and I am sorry to the affected communities that are losing much loved people. We've heard from several schools tonight, but I'm sure that these are just the folks that were able to take the time to be able to make public comment. And so I do appreciate that. And I am thankful that the superintendent and her team also appreciates the disruption that this can cause, even though they have reasons for it for the good of the district. So, and I do appreciate her planning ahead, doing this early, so this doesn't happen on the fly in the summer, but that there's time for preparation for people to get acclimated to a new environment and to make their decisions. So I do appreciate those things. One thing, and I do apologize to the communities that are affected, that this is a painful thing. And I do hope that you remain committed to your schools and work with the new administrators that are coming in. One thing that I do want to mention, because it's been brought up a few times, I don't think it's a legal question of whether or not we could, the board could take on the approval of transfers. It just is a matter of changing board bylaws and renegotiating a contract with the superintendent. So I don't think there's a legal requirement against that, but there is the couple functional things that would need to happen. But we did separate off last summer the action items from the informational only items, because as we discussed at length then, we don't approve somebody retiring. We're just informed that they retire. And so, and the transfers is by contract, and it's also in the contracts with labor unions, or where it is allowed by the contracts with the labor unions. That's how that works. But we could, through the governance committee, make those changes if that was the will of the board. I do want to say one thing before I end, is that there is an awful lot of good things on the approval of the blue sheet of the promotional appointments. And I think that underscores people being able to get the experience and moving up. When I'm looking here, I'm seeing people that are school psychologists moving to be a supervisor of school psychology, school resource person moving to be a coordinator, a administrative intern moving into an AP, special education person moving into being an AP. So there's a lot of movement onward and upward in the district, which I do think we want to celebrate, as well as also there's listed on here a principal for Wilbur Cross High School, Mr. John Tarka. And I think there was another one, Stephanie Skiba for Bernard Magnet School. Is that correct? So a lot of good things on here as well that I think we want to also celebrate, that people want us to hire from within and move people up. And so there is that I think that is that I think we should be acknowledging. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Matt, for pointing that out. I was going to point that out, that as we look across the district, we want to build from within. So when we make someone an intern in the school, it's with the hope that they have received sufficient on-the-ground learning so you can move them on up, whether to a coordinator or to an AP, where you can move an AP up to a principal, or you can move a principal up to central office. That's kind of career trajectory or career lattice that we're trying to create in the district, where you actually grow your own. Because we're not expecting that people just take on positions to be there forever and to be stagnant. When I became an assistant superintendent, it was a hope that maybe one day, somewhere, someplace, I may become a superintendent. When I became an assistant principal, it was the hope that one day, somewhere, someplace, I may become a principal. So that type of, and many teachers are in here that have moved on up. And I'm proud of that we're moving our teacher group into administrative positions.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, thank you. Just several brief thoughts. I'm thankful for the conversation tonight. And one thing that stands out to me is just the outpouring of comments that have happened tonight, but also at other times that reflects the strength of our educators spoken about, as well as the collaboration that ensues. And those are two elements that are very important, and is one of my hopes that those strengths and the collaborative culture spreads throughout all the school districts. And I recognize, and I'm also grateful for our superintendents and boards' difficult effort to balance supporting and creating a strong district with strong schools. I love that we have strong schools, and I love it more when all of our schools can be strong and continue to get stronger. So the idea of taking a district-wide view and saying, how can we take our strength and multiply it, not just transfer it, but multiply it. One of my thoughts is that in the schools where we have some of our excellent educators finishing up their term and then starting somewhere else, that within that school may still be some of those practices, some of that culture, some of those values that made that school as significant as it is, or as strong as it is, and then that school will continue, and then those values and practices and culture will be transferred and kind of mixed together or evolved with the new placements. And on the topic of process, that's been brought up, and I think it's important. I don't have an answer for, how do you notify, how do you bring in constituents for conversation? What I do acknowledge an opportunity in New Haven for our school district is that, information and news travel quickly. And to have a conversation in one school and not have a simultaneous conversation with all schools, it really just poses a challenge for how do we be equitable in what we speak about and how we inform everyone of what's happening. I don't have a solution, but I do recognize that there is a challenge and potentially an opportunity to improve upon the system, but also to think about how information travels. And I know I've been a part of many scenarios where in previous situations where it's like, okay, a decision is coming up, we would like your input, but we also, Orlando, would like you to hold the information until the appropriate time to speak about it. And that happens on a smaller scale. I'm not quite sure how that can happen on a larger scale. So I do thank our superintendent and staff for continuing to work on just how we balance process in order to take care of all the constituents involved and also to be respectful of how decisions are made and give people a chance to respond and reply. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Dr. Joyner and then Dr. Benitez.
I just want to compliment the people in public comment. For democracy to work, people have to be allowed to voice their opinions in respectful ways, and every single person did that as well. And I'd also like to remind Donnell that when we were together at Hill House, we only had 3 high schools. We only had about 4 elementary schools. And I thought I would be at Hill House forever. And of course, I love the place, but then I got moved to Jackie Robinson, and I love that place as well. It's now King Robinson. But I'm going to echo what Matt and Dr. Yarborough said about the notion of process. And the fact that we're all in this together, and the people out there who make public comments, I really appreciate it. And I would hope that you would continue to offer comments like that. But three things we have to consider is role clarity. I know people are parents and people are teachers and what have you, but we have to respect those. And we have to respect boundaries. And we have to accept that schools have always been contested terrain. From the minute that the first public school was created in Massachusetts with Ezekiel Cheever, they have been contested terrain. Some of the biggest battles in this country's history were fought on the battleground of schools, racism, segregation, and so on and so forth. And I commend Dr. Tracy for being, having a large enough view to see the needs of the entire system and to try to make appointments that hopefully do that. And some of these people might be in for a surprise because over the next few years, who knows what you're going to be after you're an assistant principal in a new school. So succession and continuity is very important. And I thank you for doing that. We are growing our own.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Dr. Benitez?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to express the thanks for the team, the superintendent and her team, because these kind of things have always happened much later in the year, much closer to the beginning of the year. And it's remarkable that they've decided to do this now and informed all of us. It feels uncomfortable. Change is difficult for most of us, even if it's for the better. So we understand. We hear what the parents and the staff are saying who may be receiving a change. But I want to remind all of us that we've always asked for the district team to be transparent. And this team today was transparent. They posted this, they made sure we knew that this was their intention. And I'm encouraging all of us, including me, because of course I have my own opinions, but I'm encouraging all of us to support the team with the changes that they're making, and perhaps to work with the assistant superintendents and the teams in the schools to make sure that the transitions that are going to happen start happening right as soon as we can. Again, I understand that change is difficult. I was part of those changes many times, but I also have to say that the courageous administrators of this district take on a job that they know is a great job, and we service the district and the kids, but we do not service ourselves. We are clear that when we take an administrative position, we can be changed. And that is, I was lucky I was in a school for 11 years, but other times I wasn't for 11 years. So I just want to also congratulate those of you who decide to be administrators, because you have to be courageous to do this. So thank you, and hoping that this is going to be a great summer to make this transition work.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on the action items of the personnel report. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Fiore?
Yes.
Ms. Roman?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, and so the personnel action items pass. We will move on to.
Thank you. Now, before you move on, Madam President,
Go ahead, Dr. Tracy.
as is our custom, we try to bring them in so you could see their
Yes.
face. And for them to use, my folks who are being let in, 1 minute to say thank you. because we have another agenda. So I want to bring in John Tarker, who was with us for a while and then went to ACES to become principal of an academy there at ACES and has come back to us to serve Wilbercross High School. One thing I admire about his artistic endeavors. I was looking at some of his artwork and I was like fascinated, but that was not the reason for hire. The reason for hire is his leadership capabilities that he has demonstrated over the years. So Mr. Tarka, could you say just thank you? Where are you, Mr. Tarka? Is he on?
No, we're promoting.
We're still getting everyone in.
We're still getting
I
everybody
got
in.
it. I got him.
You got him? Okay.
Hi, everyone.
He's in cross red already.
Red shirt on, everybody. I first want to thank all of my mentors and teachers in the New Haven Public School District who helped mold me into the educator and leader and service I am today. Without the input and perspectives of so many, I've learned so much. These relationships will continue to be important to me in my new role as principal at Wilbercross High School. I'll remember the things that got me here today. Those are essential qualities that have ensured my success. The ability to listen to those who are invested in the community to better understand the challenges they face. The ability to learn about those experiences from our staff and stakeholders and see what they go through every day to approach their daily work and contributing to the education and the future of the students. The belief that ensuring a smooth transition is crucial to the success in the students at Cross. The knowledge that there is a great foundation left by my friend Edith Johnson and a strong administrative team to help lead us to the future. My work as the principal at Cross will really focus on listening and learning and responding to the needs of our students, families, and educators at Wilbercross High School. Though I don't know what the challenges are, I'm certain that we will face them together. It's been a surreal past couple of days with so much support and well wishes from this incredible opportunity bestowed upon me. In a very short time, I felt the power of the Wilbercross community and its impact on New Haven and beyond. I promise to be the leader that Wilbercross High School deserves. I can no longer hide my Cross pride. As we finish a challenging year and move away from the uncertain days of the pandemic, I can tell you that the best is yet to come at Wilbercross High School. I'll just end tonight by sharing a quote from Malcolm X that exemplifies my philosophy. He said, "When we replace I with we, even illness becomes wellness." I'm so happy to be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarka. Okay.
Congratulations.
Pittsburgh.
Now we go to Ms. Stephanie Skiba, principal of Barnard School. Stephanie, where are you?
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt real quick, I apologize, everyone. I have to leave the meeting because I have to go to a vigil. So I'm sorry, I have to leave a little bit early. Thank you, everyone, for your good work.
Stephanie, make it short.
Yes. Hi, good evening. I wanted to thank the board, Dr. Tracy, and the executive team, my Lincoln Bassett family and Barnard family. I'm returning home, I'd like to say. As Mr. Tarka said, it has been a bittersweet and exciting last few days, being appointed and asked to lead Barnard Environmental Science School, and also talking with my current staff who I've built relationships with over the past 8 years. I'm excited to return to Barnard to lead the school to continue their greatness. I started middle school teaching at Barnard, so I'm excited to go back. There's still some familiar faces and build the community that I know that it can be and that it is. I'm excited to go back and continue working. I've already talked with Robert McCain and how we can start planning for next year. So I appreciate this happening so early, as a few board members has mentioned, so we can get the ball rolling to start the year with greatness for students and families. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Skiba. Thank you. Welcome aboard. I must say what I know of Ms. Skiba. I met her when I was running the summer school for New Haven Public Schools. And there were a lot of struggles because it was just heaved up on me, do it, run summer school, and reach out to Stephanie. She was very much an integral part of my team, and I saw her in action. And this is how you spot leadership sometimes. So I saw her in action, and the things she did around staffing, around the budget process, around a number of things in terms of her leadership. And here she is today. Thank you, Stephanie. We move on to Miss Annie Bally, Supervisor of Psychology.
Good evening. My name is Kate Annabali, and I first want to thank Dr. Eileen Tracy and the Board of Education for entrusting me with the position of Supervisor of School Psychology. I want to thank the Student Services Department for their encouragement and just support, ongoing support throughout the years. I have dedicated my entire career to the service of New Haven Public Schools, staff, students, and families. I live in New Haven. My son is going to be attending pre-K3 in New Haven in the fall. So I'm just really committed to New Haven Public Schools. And I'm honored to just be working for such an amazing school system. I feel such a great honor to really be blessed with such cooperative and caring team members. And I'm truly humbled to have been chosen for this position. And I really look forward to fulfilling it with the honor that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ann Bally. I always mess your names up, so don't worry about it. Next person is Susan Bonanno Amenta, as Darnell said, another Bonanno.
Hi, thank you.
I call her Amenta, Miss Amenta.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Thank you to the Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Tracy and her team for my appointment tonight. I'm so excited for the opportunity to serve the students and families at Ross Woodward Classical Studies Magnet School. I am very fortunate as I have worked under and learned from an amazing group of administrators in Cheryl Brown, Diane Spence, Susan D. Nicola, my mentor for the last 8 years as I served in a leadership role at Obama, and currently for the last year with Mrs. Jamie Baker. It's an incredible and impactful group who have all given me the experience and opportunities that prepared me for this position today. I attended New Haven Public Schools as a student, and I am grateful to serve the next generation of students and their families in an administrative capacity. I look forward to getting to know the staff and the leadership at Ross Woodward so we can together fulfill the school's motto of learning about yesterday to build a new tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Miss Coleman. Miss Coleman will be assistant principal. She was a magnet school resource person, engineering and science school. Miss Coleman, a few words, and go ahead, Miss Coleman.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for the confidence that you're putting into my leadership to join the team at Career High School. It's really interesting. When I was a career changer over about 15 years ago, moving to New Haven, the first school that I settled in was Career High School. And, to say that this is my first administrative position at in New Haven and placed at Career High School just tells me that this is the right fit for me. It's just supposed to happen. I want to thank my an exceptional example of educational leadership that I've been following for the past 6 years or so, Miss Medria Blue Ellis. She has been a great resource for me in growing my educational leadership skills. And most recently, I can't forget Miss Lola Nathan also, who's more recently over the past 6 months has been my mentor also. So I want to thank them both. And again, I thank you for the confidence you've given in me to join the leadership team at Career High School. Thank you.
Okay. So we have quite a few others, and I don't want to rush you, but do it under a minute. Ms. Karen Lord, she has been the intern at Wexler Grant for the entire year, and a lot has been spoken about her in terms of her work under Mr. David Dyer. So, Ms. Lord.
Good evening, Dr. Tracy and Board of Education members. I would like to express my sincere gratitude for allowing me the opportunity to continue to serve the stakeholders of Wexler Grant Community School. I've learned so much as an educator leader this year and look forward to the continued growth in my service to the greater New Haven Public School community. Thank you to the administration, faculty, staff, parents, and students of Wexler Grant Community School for welcoming me this year with open arms. I look forward to our continued partnership in meeting the needs of our students. To my family and friends, your guidance, support, prayers, and mentorship has meant so much. You all inspire me to work harder and dream bigger. And lastly, to my amazing husband and my wonderful daughter for always having my back and always being by my side. I am so grateful and I am so thankful. Being an educator is who I am to the core, and today's appointment just adds another light to my pathway. I'm so honored to continue to work with students of New Haven Public School and look forward to our journey together at Wexler Grant Community School. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lord. Shanette Robinson. Shanette is like going back to her old stomping ground. Shanette Robinson, Special Education at Co-op Arts and Humanities High School, now moving back to Hill House. Shanette.
Greetings to the board, Dr. Tracy, Mayor Elicker, and the New Haven Public Schools community. I am overjoyed and filled with gratitude this evening. Serving in this capacity at my alma mater, home of the academics, the place that meant so much to me as a scholar athlete, and the place that prepared me to pursue a career in education is an honor and a privilege. New Haven Public Schools raised me. What I've learned from those extraordinary educators as a student is that they had high expectations for all, and this is the standard that fuels my passion. To the numerous families, students, staff, and family support representatives that I have been blessed to work with over the last 24 years, many are listening this evening. Thank you. Thank you for holding me accountable, for making me better, and for embracing the team approach to positive student outcomes. To my principal, Val Jean Belton, thank you for providing me with various opportunities to grow and develop as an aspiring building leader. Your mentorship has been invaluable. Seeing Hill House highlighted on Channel News 8 last Friday was nostalgic, and my heart is still beaming with pride. To the entire House fam, I look forward to learning from and growing with each and every one of you. Thank you so much for this honor.
I'll back up a little bit. Thank you, Shanette. And I skipped over Mr. Fry, Christopher Fry. Christopher Fry is one of those unique individuals who has been working as an intern for a while, and he has accepted movement to various schools throughout New Haven Public Schools. And his last placement was at Obama School when suddenly the assistant principal had to leave for health reasons. And he did so graciously. Thank you, Mr. Fry, for that level of flexibility. Say what you have to say in a few words.
Of course. Good evening, Dr. Tracy, President Rivera, members of the board. I thank you so much for this honor and privilege. I am truly humbled with your decision for my appointment. The Hill neighborhood is a very special place. That is where I was when I was a beginning teacher, and that is where I will go as a beginning administrator. I very much look forward to getting over to Truman School and getting to work with Principal Mattern as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Move on now to Eva Schultz. Eva is a grade 5 teacher, an excellent teacher at Moore Sheridan School. And I want everyone to know that we're not just promoting people for promotion's sake. They've demonstrated leadership abilities in different capacities, and that's what we're looking for. So Eva, your turn for a few words.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tracy, and good evening, everybody. I am so thrilled for this opportunity to be an assistant principal at Lincoln Bassett. I feel like everyone has talked about how they're all coming home to different schools, and that's because every school is a part of us. And if you've been an educator in New Haven long enough, you've been a part of every school. So I'm a New Haven graduate. I went to West Hills and Wilbur Cross, and I've been an educator in New Haven for 15 years. And my daughter goes to a New Haven public school. So I am just thrilled to be an even stronger part of the community. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And I look forward to learning from the families and staff about how to be the best for their students.
Thank you, Eva. Mr. Sienna. Mr. Sienna, works at Beecher as, he got certified also as a special education teacher and has also been doing leadership responsibilities outside of his role. And so Mr. Sienna, and he has also participated, many of these folks have participated in the Leadership Academy offered in the district. And so we are proud of that. So Mr. Sienna, say a few words quickly.
Good evening, members of the board, Mayor Alker, Superintendent Dr. Tracy, Assistant Superintendents, and the New Haven learning community. I want to thank you for this opportunity to serve this great city and the Beecher community as its next assistant principal. To my amazing Beecher family, thank you for your continued support and confidence. Many thanks to Mrs. Beck, who has been a mentor to me for the past 5 years and has provided me with many leadership opportunities and guidance to help shape me into the leader I am today. It is an honor to continue to work beside her. I want to thank Mrs. Gums Johnson for her help through the District Leadership Academy and for recognizing my hard work and passion. Last but not least, thank you to my family and my number one support system, my wife and my 2 sons, who are always there for me to motivate me every day in order to improve student success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sienna. Now we move to Mr. Is he here? Mr. Alex Sinclair. Mr. Alex Sinclair, one of those leaders who, let me tell you something about Alex. When we have shortage of administrators, we move poor Alex around to just about any building in New Haven. It didn't matter where, it didn't matter if it were high school or elementary, he took on the task while he was an intern. When he became a coordinator, he served with Ross Woodward School, and he served so effectively. Never complained from him. He goes where he is needed. And I admire that level of flexibility in Mr. Sinclair. And now, moving from coordinator, we saw it fit to move him up to an assistant principal at Brennan Rogers Magnet School. Mr. Sinclair.
I'd like to thank the board and Dr. Tracy and Mayor Elliker, but really, I'm so thankful to Dr. White for always being there for me every time I need him, every time he's always he answers my calls, which is kind of awesome. I also want to thank Mr. Davis, Principal Davis at Ross Woodward, and the entire Ross Woodward community that's really been embracing me and treating me like family and making me feel at home. And I'm looking forward to the challenges. And as Dr. Tracy said, I'm a soldier. I'm a company man. When it comes down to it, wherever the company wants me to go, I'm there because I'm here to serve New Haven Public Schools and the students in our community at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. Now we move to Melanie Thomas. Melanie Thomas is a bilingual grade 3 teacher, or she is a bilingual candidate who taught grade 3 at Truman School. Melanie, I encountered Melanie in summer school, and she was not even working in summer school, but she was out there with the parents, helping out the parents, communicating to the parents about their needs and just supporting the principal in every aspect. And I was fascinated by her level of commitment. She did not just sit back and say, well, my classroom is my classroom and that's it. She stepped outside and supported the school in its needs. And so Melanie is being promoted to being an assistant principal to support Barack Obama Magnet School. Melanie, I see your smile. Take your mic off. Yes.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I first want to thank Dr. Tracy, her team, the members of the board for this amazing opportunity. It's been an honor to serve New Haven Public Schools under the leadership of Kathleen Mattern at Truman School for the last 10 years. And I'm looking forward to this new season of serving our students and their families and our teachers in a different capacity. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Melanie. And last but not least, Dr. Camilla Bisa, Restore Williams, and she'll correct it for me. Dr. Camilla Williams. Dr. Camilla Williams has a lot of experience also in leadership. And I know that Career High School is bleeding for her right now. And she's moving on to some other things. So Dr. Williams.
Hello, good evening, board. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
I'm Dr. Kimala Bisaser Williams, but I'll go by Dr. Williams. I'll go by Dr. Williams. So good evening, board. Good evening, listeners. I am just humbled and extremely blessed to be selected as one of the assistant principals at one of New Haven's gems, Hill House High School. Let me rephrase that, the Hill House High School, because I know the panelists that I have in front of me. But I'm ready. I'm excited to work with the kids, to motivate my staff, and to simply just work as a team. Please allow me to just thank the following persons. To Dr. Tracy, Mrs. Hannons, Dr. White, Mrs. O'Connor, Mr. Finley, and the rest of the team. Thank you for looking within the district and building the talents which exist in our school. And I really hope you hear the passion in my voice from that, because I feel that it gives my esteemed colleagues hope, those who are looking towards that trajectory of educational leadership. And I really, really have to give this team a pat on the back for that. To my mom, who is an assistant teacher at Roberta Clemente, and I know everybody's gonna be surprised at that, for doing a phenomenal job as a single parent and for pushing me to achieve simply what she didn't have. That opportunity has just allowed me to raise the bar for my kids and for all the generation that follows. To my husband, Sunil, my daughter, and my son for their support and always understanding why my laptop, is an integral part of me, even when I'm at home. And to Principal True and my career family, to Ms. Jenkins and the Betsy Ross family, I have learned from the best. I have taught the best, and I will be taking that with me. I will miss you all. And finally, to the prospective Hill House team and Mr. Sweeten, for those conversations today, I just feel the synergy. We're ready to move mountains with Hill House. Thank you again, everybody, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate you guys coming on, and we also have some teacher appointment and appointment of paraprofessionals and those things. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we know you're going to be dynamic leaders here in New Haven Public Schools. Again, I'm emphasizing the need for flexibility. Flexibility, and to remember that when we work in the district, we work for New Haven Public Schools. I just want to emphasize that. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, and congratulations to all the new appointees. Okay, moving on to proposed NHPS recruitment and retention incentive plan. Dr. Tracy, I believe that's also you.
What's that? The recruitment. Oh, I'm trying to find my paper here. Okay, thought I was organized. So, hold on. Let's get to this part first. So, as you know, we've been listening to our staff. We've been following what's happening across the state of Connecticut and the nation in general. And we've recognized that our staff members have been working hard right through the pandemic. We've been in the third year now of the pandemic, and it doesn't seem to be letting up. But we have those staff members who come to school every single day, even in the height of the pandemic. We did not shut down New Haven public schools like other school systems during the pandemic. Not talking about the beginning, but when we returned to school fully in person. Those staff members supported one another in the classroom, whether they were paras or they were teachers or they were custodians or security. They support the system and allowing the system to continue to float and not sinking. And I want to appreciate them. And appreciating them, I'm going to have Ms. Hannon share the screen with you. So we have worked with the Connecticut State Department of Education and asked about making a revision to our ARP ESSER grant in order to accommodate giving incentives for staff to stay and incentives, some bonus incentive, because we're recognizing the hard work they have done. Wish we could have done more. We also want to make it very equitable. We, in the first part of what is being shown, we said all current full-time employees working as of May 1, 2022 would be eligible, which is 3,200 workers would be eligible to get $1,000 incentive. And then this will be distributed in their last paycheck. All current part-time employees working as of May 1, 2022 will receive $800. No, we have about 800 of them. They receive an incentive of $500, which would be about $400,000 in their last, incentive in their last paycheck as of June 30, 2022. For the next year, trajectory for 2023, we go back to the same thing that we had in the first section, again, with the full-time workers getting some form of incentive for staying here and working so hard with us. Now, I know that there'll be people who will probably murmur about, this and that, but this is what we decided to do as a team here at central office, and to share this thinking with our board. And we're hoping that you will pass this. You will accept this proposal, make a motion to accept this proposal as we think about the hard work of all our staff.
Mr. Bolton, thank you, Dr. Tracy. You're muted, Mr. Bolton.
I'd like to move this item, Madam President.
One second, Mr.
Second.
Wilcox.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a couple of questions. I just want to make sure I understand this. So for the first of all, my first question is this all full-time and part-time employees, administrative? Does this include everybody in the system, including non-union members?
All full-time workers except Dr. Tracy. I was glad to clarify that because I know the optics in New Haven, except Dr. Tracy and some of her administrative assistants.
My second question, Madam President, Dr. Tracy, is so for instance, for the first line, the all employees working as of May 1st. So any employee who is working as of May 1st will get a $1,000 incentive on June 30th. Is that what this is saying?
The last paycheck, yes. Whatever the last paycheck date is, yes.
Last paycheck being this school year.
Yes, this school year.
Be before July 1st. Okay. So does that mean if an employee comes on May 2nd, they get the full incentive amount, or is that?
No, exactly what it says on the paper, as of May 1st.
As of May 1st. Okay. So if they came on April 30th, they would be eligible for the entire incentive. Okay. So anybody who comes, so anyone who comes on after May 1st will not be eligible for the incentive at all.
Not the first tranche, but if they remain with us up to into next year, they get the other piece.
So that's the second. That's the second question I have is that as of January 1st, why is January 1st the date that is chosen as opposed to July 1st?
Because July 1st, you begin a new fiscal year.
Right, and this is right, and this is that new fiscal year that you're talking about. When you say January 1st, 2023, that's a new fiscal year, right?
Yeah, so we're talking about retention. It's the whole part is about even retaining our staff. So if you even start with us, say September, and you're here up to January, I think it makes sense you incentivize them to stay with us. That's
Got it.
Yes.
So I understand. So if somebody starts work on July 1st, but they leave before January 1st, they will not be eligible for the incentive.
So that's the tricky part because teachers start working in September and most
Yes,
staff start working in September, not July 1st.
Right.
July 1st is primarily administrators or central.
Right. Right. But if they start in September and they decide to leave before January 1st, they're not going to be eligible for any kind of incentive. Okay. Thank you very much. And by the way, I commend you on this proposal. I thank you on this proposal. I'm sure a lot of employees thank you on this proposal. I sure wish it was more money for some of the part-timers, of course, but it's a lot of money, and it doesn't come at the expense of the taxpayers of the city of New Haven. It comes from the federal government, which is even better. So I'm very appreciative of this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Golson.
That's our
Mr.
money
Wil-
too, Mr. Golson.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, thank you. And I do support this. And I'm very happy to see that we are able to do this, that the administration went and got the approval to change the plan for use of some of the ARP ESSER funds. I do think it's probably good just to mention that because this is a big chunk of money, and we are projecting still a deficit for this year. The administration, I know, and I'll talk about this in F&O report, is working towards closing that, and we're projecting a deficit next year. This is use of these grant funds, federal grant funds, and not general funds. So it doesn't, these are in that category of, these funds could be used for this, but they're not the type of funds that can be used for general purpose, general fund things. Could you just elaborate on that, please?
So there are some things from the ARP ESSER that we can use in terms of helping to mitigate some of the general funds. Like, for example, cleaning still comes under that. Looking at HVAC systems, new HVAC systems, we put in a chunk of funds for that also. So it depends on what the items are, but we cannot use them for salaries or such other things. We're limited, and that's why we are able to go into this to be able to have the state approving $7.2 million over the next 2 years to help us out in this aspect. So, Matt, you're correct. This is by no means a mitigation for general funds. These are federal dollars that were infused in the system to support our staff and the district during COVID.
All right, thank you. I just think it's an important point to make clear, especially as the teacher union president, Ms. Blateau, was reminding us that the alders are working towards passing a city budget, that it's not like we don't need the money and we're spending millions of dollars over here. We're investing some of this federal money into our employees' pockets in order to help retain them, and that this was a specific suggestion from the Department of Education that these funds could be used and should be considered to be used for this. So thank you very much. And again, I agree. I think we would all agree that more money individually into our teachers and paraprofessionals and all level of staff in every role would be desirable. But this is still a $7.2 million investment, and hopefully a token that helps people feel valued here. Thank you.
The other thing I needed to correct is that I did say administrative assistant. I meant to say assistant superintendents, not administrative assistant, although the funds could be used to pay everybody, but we wanted to make a distinction there. The other thing too, we have is that I need to acknowledge Leslie Blateau, who has been working and having conversations around these incentives and pushing it also. In another sense too, for her and their team to be pushing and the advocacy for the Board of Alders to pass our general funds budget. I also want to acknowledge their advocacy in that role. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Dr. Tracy. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote to approve the recruitment and retention incentive plan. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Fiore,
Yes.
Ms. Raman,
She had to leave, unfortunately.
thank you. Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Golson,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. So that item passes. Moving on to finance and operations, Mr. Wilcox.
All right, thank you very much. Just as a reminder, if anybody would like things moved separately, I'm happy to do that. But we have for you this evening several items here that were recommended for approval by the Finance and Operations Committee. So I'm going to make a motion, and that is I move that we approve these 2 abstracts, these 11 agreements, and these 4 change orders as listed as action items on our agenda.
Dr. Joyner?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote to approve the F&O items. Dr. Benitez?
Sorry, I missed your last statement.
Oh, we're just voting on the F&O items.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Golson,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so the F&O items pass. Dr. Joyner,
Oh, it's my turn.
yes.
Madam Chair, I would like to motion to add the approval of 3 end-of-year field trips to the agenda. And if that passes, I would then like to motion that we approve those 3 field trips.
Okay, so the first motion is to amend the agenda to
Yes.
add the field trip item. Okay.
Right.
Is there a second? Dr. Benitez? Yes.
I second.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Benitez. Any discussion? Okay, see none, we'll vote to amend the agenda to add the field trip item. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Golson,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. And so we've added the field trip item to the agenda.
Okay, so Madam Chair, I would now like to motion for the board to approve 3 end-of-year field trips. 1, the Sound School will be going to Long Beach, California for underwater robotics competition. And I'd like to say a word about David Lowe, the teacher at Sound School. He is a teacher's teacher, and he is taking all of his personal energy and time to raise money to help those children who can't afford the trip. You can't beat that with a stick. The Educators Rising program at Hill House is a program designed to get students, while they're still in high school, interested in teaching. And there's a phenomenal young lady over there, Demetria McMillan, who is spearheading that. And she's taking those kids down to Atlanta to meet with other organizations and to try to get some of our young people involved in teaching early on. And then the third trip is a trip to Edgewood School is taking a trip to Massachusetts. It's a nature trip, and the principal, oh God, I know his face. I'm just
Dr. Perone.
Yeah, Dr. Perone is spearheading that along with some of the teachers. It was the description of the trips was sent to your email through a glitch in the matrix. We didn't get it in the board package, but that won't happen again.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Wilcox, thank you. Dr. Yarborough. Any discussion? Okay. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, just thankful to the administrators and the students and the parents and the committee kind of sponsoring and putting forward these field trips. The enrichment opportunities are so important to keep our students engaged and to continue to expand their horizons for where they can go and what they can do, and also to connect with individuals different from them who may connect around a similar topic. So thank you very much for the care, the innovation, and the thoughtfulness. And even as the school year ends, still putting forward these opportunities to keep our students engaged and developing and growing. All types of disciplines come together as students travel. The math, the language, the reading, the science, and everything else. So thank you very much for putting this forward.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on approving the 3 field trips. Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Golson,
Yes.
Mr. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so the field trips pass. Thank you.
Okay, now, Madam Chair, the second brief part of the report. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Evie Velasquez, particularly for this past meeting where she brought all the teachers that were working on mini grants. And I think that's a phenomenal addition to our district. Dr. Tracy and the central office staff have found money to give teachers mini grants to do promising practices. And our kids at Cross at the Bradshaw Pro Start program culinary management team actually finished, I believe they finished first in the state, maybe second in the region. And you'd have to see that presentation. Mr. Bradshaw is a gift to us. And those kids, it's a very diverse group of students, and they had to cook a 3-course meal over an open flame in 1 hour. They had to have a business plan that had to be designed and judged at the competition to showcase the skills. And of course, they won first and second in regional competition. And they shared their testimonies at our teaching and learning meeting. If you get a chance, go over there and have a bite to eat, because they are phenomenal. And they all look like this district. And it was so great to see those kids, a bunch of all-stars in culinary arts, which also combines chemistry, math, and all of that. Win all that. And this man is so passionate about what he does. The second thing that was presented at the teaching and learning meeting was presented by Kalila Abdul Rahim. And she's created a therapeutic room at Hill House to de-escalate and integrate kids back into classrooms that have had problems. And she is very charismatic, very committed. We just have some gifted people in this district. And of course, Mr. Pavano over at Riverside has developed a virtual training ground. And he's preparing the students for the future, which is going to obviously be one that's based on technology and what have you. And I was really impressed with what he's doing with those kids and how he's engaging them in this work. So if you do get a chance to visit some of those things, please do, because our kids are doing phenomenal stuff. Now, a real big issue, and that'll close my report, is that COVID has created a lot of problems for us. We were struggling in the beginning because we're an underfunded district, but COVID just really exacerbated that. But it also created lots of opportunities. So at the next teaching and learning meeting, I want to begin to work with stakeholders throughout the district to create a structure and process to improve teaching and learning in all of our schools and classrooms. and would like to focus on student behavior, effective instructional practice, and family and community support. This meeting tonight is a great example of all that coming together. And quite frankly, some of our students, unfortunately, are acting in ways that are defiant and difficult for the schools and classrooms. And we have to figure out how to help those kids. But we cannot allow anybody to sink the boat. I was telling the principals that I talked to, you're the captain of the ship. And you have to make sure that, you have smooth sailing and that we don't have anyone that would create a problem. And we need to find a way that we can help kids that are disruptive, that have conduct disorders and what have you. And that's a great challenge. And we also need to rethink how we teach kids. Clearly those grants that were given take into account that when you tap into students' interests and when you build strong relationships with them, it makes it a lot easier to teach them. And then of course, if the family and the community is involved in a productive way, then that really completes the circle. When Donnell was at Hill House, it was like a family. In fact, the term Hill House family was started back then. And you knew what to expect from teachers. Teachers knew what to expect from kids, and everybody rallied around each other. So we want to bring that back. And we have the leadership at the board level with our president, at the administrative level with our superintendent, and the city's level. So we're going to be talking about what the composition of that team would look like, what process we should have, how do we assess the current reality. We need to take a look at how things have gone over the past 2 years. And what kinds of bold responses can we make to those challenges so that we can catch some of these kids up? But the kids have to be willing to run the race. And hopefully we can have a way in which we can identify the concerns and issues, look at those practices in the district that are really changing things for kids, and then try to spread that practice across the district. And I'm looking forward to doing that. And you will see that on the agenda at the next TL meeting. I would encourage anybody to come to that meeting. I will be sending invitations to the leaders of the unions in the district, to community representatives. And of course, it's a meeting of the whole for the school board. And we're going to try to get to the bottom of some of these issues and try to make a difference so that when we start the next year, that we'll start with a clear sense of where we're going, how we're going to get there, as well as the way that we're going to respond to the kinds of problems that typically occur in schools. And I would invite any suggestions from the whole board on how we go about doing that. But we're going to have an open process in the beginning, and then once we create the structure, then we can begin to look at what the current reality is, what we need to do in order to move from that current reality to a better and more idealized reality. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Any questions or comments for Dr. Joyner? Okay. Students report. Mr. Perry?
First, I'd like to say, as I near my end for this role, I realize that my list of things to say gets longer and longer. And I'll hold off my feelings about leaving till the very end. And I think this is my second to last, maybe third to last. So yeah. First, I'd like to say the last citywide meeting, which of course is a chance for students to meet together and express their opinions and the problems they see at the schools. That last meeting for the year is going to be held this Thursday. I'm very looking forward to that one, and I'm really excited to see all these students one last time and to be able to hear from them. I have actually a letter. Bear with me as I pull it up. I have a letter that I was given from Citywide to read as part of like the last thing I wanted them to do. I wanted them to have a letter that they could that I can read to you as kind of them talking directly to you in the sorts. So don't mind me as I'm reading from my phone.
Every month, student leaders from almost all high schools in New Haven meet at Hill House to discuss the problems that students face in schools. Every month, the grievances and concerns of students form a pattern that has remained familiar this past year. The students of New Haven schools want to find ways to bring a long-term and stable resolution to those chronic problems. Students are struggling with the violence, the fights, the explosive conflicts that seem to persist without resolution. We are struggling with the lack of proper maintenance and accessibility, especially regarding the gender-neutral bathrooms in our schools. We are struggling with the mental health, which has sadly turned into a buzzword with no weight or decisive action put behind it. We understand that the pandemic has put a heavy strain on our school resources in New Haven's already limited funding to serve a large number of students. However, that does not mean that these issues should not go unaddressed and dismissed. We must find creative solutions to NHPS's chronic underfunding, for the situation is dire. As of April, which is when this was written, there is no long-term nurse present at high school and community. There is a notable uptick in fights and mental health problems present in Louisville Cross, with very limited and strained outlets for help. There are virtually no rigorous and accessible mental health resources at Sound School and a Metropolitan Business Academy. Mental health resources like social work interns seem to slowly be slipping away due to the lack of funding during a time where students need it most. New Haven Public Schools should focus more on the direct additional resources towards creating restorative justice programs that are created by and put in place by qualified mental health professionals. Directing additional resources towards mental health services and gender neutral bathrooms is not a form of coddling the highest achieving schools in Connecticut. The highest achieving schools in Connecticut are well resourced, and that's what New Haven schools need to. To reciprocate, we strongly urge that the Board of Education may pay special attention to addressing the fixing NHPS chronic underfunding, directing more money and resources to research-backed and rigorous restorative and transformative justice initiatives, directing more money and resources to school maintenance and the construction of private and accessible gender-neutral bathrooms. Finally, keep your promise and listen to the voices of students that you serve, for the grievances remain the same and continue to echo in this familiar pattern. Thank you. The Citywide Student Council of New Haven. That was a lot of information. I'll happily email that to any of you who would like to review that again.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We're gonna need it for our meeting.
Yes. What I'd like to echo is that a lot of issues in New Haven, and I've seen in my past 2 years on the board, that a lot of issues on New Haven can't be solved with the money that we don't have. You know, a lot of issues, it seems easy to just ask for more money, but I think it's apparent that we're not going to get it that easily. We're not going to fix the problems that way, that one way at least. And I think at least for mental health resources, a way we can help on that or work on that. And me and Mashai are talking about this, and we can give a more detailed plan next meeting. But we should raise awareness of the resources we already have. For some schools, students feel like they have no resources to their availability, but that's not true. They just don't know what they have yet. And that's something that can be worked on, and that echoes in a lot of problems. Students don't know the resources that are available to them. And, you know, I think it's very sad, because I feel like a lot of students need help, and they can get help. It's just a matter of finding it in the New Haven system. Sorry, I'm just crossing off things as my list as I go along. Overall, I think next year, I think the Board of Ed, it would be great to focus on educating the students on school policies that we have. As we go on, the issues that we've had in our schools have been the students have tried solving them in ways that maybe have not been the best ways. We've talked about that before, as the protest and co-op 3 months ago. Some Board of Ed members and some parents said that it was not managed well with the way they tried solving problem. A problem I raised at the time was that they didn't know any other way to have their expression heard. They didn't know another way to be heard from the district. The problem echoes in a lot of different things. And I think a solution to that would be simply educating our students, whether that's a pamphlet that's handed out at the beginning of the year that says how to address problems within your school community. That would be great. Students need to know how to help their community. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiore. Ms. Hammonds and then Mr. Bolton. Ms. Red Hammonds.
Raising my hand to let Mr. Fiore know that I would like a copy of the letter he read.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Mr. Golson.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Mr. Fiore for that very insightful report. I'm looking forward to seeing it in writing. I would hope, I'm happy to hear that the students, one of their focuses is on more resources, more funding. I would hope that they could organize themselves around going to the two bodies that actually provide the funding to us, two major bodies, which is, of course, the state and the Board of Alders. It would have been great to have 300 of them march on the Board of Alders at a budget meeting, as opposed to the way they did do that. I also have one, and I'm probably gonna have other questions when I actually see it. But one thing that struck me as I'm confused a little about is, why is this gender neutral bathroom issue important to them?
Yeah.
I've never heard that as something that was important to students before, and I'm curious to hear where that's coming from. Thank you.
Of course, I could try answering that question as best as I can, because I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, but I have heard them a lot, so I'll try to answer as best as I can. Many people feel like they don't necessarily define themselves as to one bathroom or the other. It's also just a lot of people feel like the bathrooms we have now are very limiting and also very destroyed, put simply. And research has been shown that, and I could pull it up later also, that gender neutral bathrooms are more likely to not be destroyed. If you dedicate all your resources into one specific bathroom that is bigger, you can make it higher quality so that people feel less likely to destroy it. Like for me, in my school, we do have a gender neutral bathroom. It's one out of the 4, I believe. And it's never been destroyed. It's never been damaged in any capacity, right? And everyone has access to it. But the boys' bathroom, the girls' bathroom are destroyed to no end. The boys' bathroom, the dividers ripped down from the boys just ripping them down. Don't ask me why. I really don't know why. But they destroy the dividers and everything. So it's... I'll put you in touch with someone who could better explain it from the LGBTQ perspective. But from my perspective, it's just, it makes more sense on budgetary wise. It makes people feel safer, definitely. That I can say. It makes people feel much safer. I know the people that use those bathrooms, they feel comfortable using the bathrooms. Whereas before we didn't have that bathroom, they didn't want to use the bathroom at all during school time, which is like 7 hours out of the day. It's ridiculous. But now they feel like they can, which is a huge thing. I hope that helps.
Well, that was very interesting. It was informative. I learned something. I learned something all the time.
Yeah,
I didn't know that we actually had gender neutral bathrooms in the school system. So that's something I learned today.
It's very small scale, but students seeing the positive results of them want to see on a larger scale.
Well, even on a small scale, I didn't know that it existed. So
yeah.
That's very interesting. I'd like to hear more about that eventually. Thank you very much, Ms. Fiore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Mr. Wilcox?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mr. Fiore for his comments. And I did want to since I know sometimes he's not able to stay on the meeting later on, because I imagine he has an awful lot of homework to get done and so on. But on the gender neutral bathrooms, those which are also another way of putting it is single person restrooms.
Yeah.
And that we have had that as a topic of discussion at Finance and Operation Committee meetings, and the district is going to, we've asked them to, and building leaders to talk about what issues are going to come from the facility portions of the transgendered student policy that the board passed. And so that we can, as you might imagine, installing restrooms can be extremely costly, but we need to see where they're needed. And so that they are taking a look at that. So I did want to just mention that there is something happening as regards to that and the rest of the implementation of the student transgender student policy, so that people can use restrooms. People have the right to use a restroom during their school day, and they need to have the ability to use one. So at any rate, thank you.
No, I could as someone who is straight and doesn't have to deal with the difficulties of questioning where to go in these bathrooms. The gender neutral bathroom is nice for me too. It's a clean bathroom. It is a single use, so I don't have to worry about anyone messing with me as I'm using the bathroom. I think it's really beneficial for everyone to have them, especially if you look. I mean, if you look at the universities, Yale has gender neutral bathrooms and on a large scale, and they're never destroyed. And granted, it's a different type of student that goes there, and they're not. Anyways. But Mr. Golden, I would like to comment on what you said earlier about how students incorrectly, you said, protested in front of the Board of Ed and not in front of the Board of Alders. And I would agree with you, but that's another thing that we need to educate students on. If they do want to protest safely in an efficient way, how can they protest and where to protest? It's things like that. It's like, how do we directly change the New Haven schools? Because like I said, students don't necessarily know what to do. They're just trying their best. They're just trying their best to make an impact on what the schools can do for them. And yes, maybe they're a little misguided on how to do it, but they're trying. So if we can make that information more public on which Board of Alders and Board of Education does what, I think that would be better for everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Fury.
And you are right, though, Mr. Wilcox. I do have to leave to do homework and other things. So thank you so much for hearing me. I look forward to possibly my last meeting in June, I believe. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too. All right, Superintendent's report, Dr. Tracy.
Oh, thank you. We're still here. I was tempted to not do the presentation, but the schools have this, they had postponed it before, and they're ready to do so. So I did not want to disappoint them. I'm just asking for the presenters to cut it short and not, and highlight just the major aspects of their presentations to the board. But before I go there, Thursday night, we had the educational school at Southern's educational department, graduate students ceremony. And at that ceremony, one of our speakers was, with my glasses on to see, Marlene Miller Pratt, one of our high school teachers. She gave a moving speech about social justice. And she gave that speech because she was being acknowledged as giving the SCSU President's Medal of Distinction for her work in the community, especially around the New Haven Botanical Healing Garden that is on West Rock neighborhood.
Valley Street.
Yes, Valley Street. If you have not been there, it's important to go and see that, where she has hundreds of names of our fallen young people and others through gun violence in the district. And it's sad, but she's trailblazing that work to draw attention to the impact of violence in our community and how so many promising young people are taken away before time. So I want to acknowledge Ms. Marlene Miller Pratt for this honored medal that she received from President Bertoloni at Southern Connecticut State University. I also want to bring to us, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I received from Eric Pachowski the names of some students from Hill House High School. Nikita Omelshenko, track scholarship to UConn. Gary Moore, track scholarship to Baylor University. Travis Jones, former Wilbercross football, drafted to the Baltimore Ravens. Andrew Marrero, former Wilbercross basketball, drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals. Olivia O'Connor, Hill House track scholarship to Dartmouth. Raphael Hawkins, Hill House track scholarship, Alabama. Matthew Gibbs, Hill House track scholarship, Morgan State University. Jaquan Athis, Hill House track scholarship, University of New Haven. And Jennifer Garcia, Hill House track scholarship, University of New Haven. These are just some of the things. There are a lot more that I did not yet receive from some of the other high school, but I'm just sharing as I receive them, that our students are doing well. And I must say too, I don't know if you got a chance, I sent the link to the board. Gail on the Go at Hill House. Gail on the Go at Hill House, highlighting not just that they're athletes, but they're scholar athletes, highlighting varied aspects of Hill House High School with so many things going on, giving students opportunities and choice around their learning and their pathways. And I think that was a great highlight from Channel 8 for those students. They woke up very early in the morning and got there to talk about their schools. And thanks to Ms. Moore and for Assistant Superintendent Keisha Hannons, Dr. White, they got up early. I watched them, but they got up early to be there. So I want to thank them for that team effort. I have some others that I will share next time that Jessica Haxley had sent to me from Connecticut Council of Language Teachers, their poetry contest winners in the different languages in New Haven. And at the next meeting, in the interest of time, I will share those along with some of the information from Wilbercross High School. Now we have 3 schools presenting. My presenters, I'm going to ask you to cut it short, highlight just the major things because the time is far spent and I didn't want to send you back. So go ahead.
So it's my pleasure to introduce our team presenting tonight. They're all in my network. We are having presentations from Ms. Michelle Bernard, Dr. Nicholas Perrone, and Mr. Mark Petoskey. So we'll be highlighting adult education, Edgewood School, and Sound School. They are going to be extremely brief as they get into talking about their schools. And we will start with adult education. Ms. Bernard, please take it away.
All right, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. So in a brief nature, I'd like to start actually by sounding somewhat of an alarm. So Doc, if you can go to that slide that says, here's a problem, right? It's a real urgency that 1 out of 10 Connecticut residents do not have a high school diploma. And in our city, 1 out of 6 residents do not have a high school diploma, with 30% of New Haven residents struggling to reading proficiently, as well as almost 10% of our New Haven adults struggle to speak English well. That's in written and oral fluency. Next slide, please. So of course I have a problem and a solution. And we like to call New Haven Adult Ed the hidden gem of all education. So if you've never been to our school or seen our students, I invite you to walk in at any time. It's quite a special place. We offer 4 programs for students to earn their high school diploma or advance their English speaking skills. Most people think of adult ed as GED. They'll say you're going to go earn a GED, but actually GED is just an exam. And students who pass the GED then earn a state diploma. We also offer a high school credit program, which works on transferred credits. Students work to meet the state requirements for earning a high school diploma. And then NEDP is an individualized program, mostly for working adults trying to pursue their dreams of working with a family and doing independent assignments. ESOL is our largest population. Our students are the parents in New Haven Public Schools. So we see the same people coming through our doors speaking from 80 countries, speaking 23 languages. Quick facts. Over 1,300 students enrolled, so probably a lot bigger than what you thought. Our programs run day and night, virtually and in person. The ages range from 17 to 70. And one quick accolade, we took the school bowling last week on an all-school field trip, and to see students who are 80 years old and 17 years old and from Afghanistan and New Haven all doing something together as a team builder was really special. So our programs are free to New Haven residents. We have satellite locations all over the community. We employ over 100 employees. They're going to be really excited about that incentive plan. So good work, team. And our funding is a little unique. So 60% of our funding comes from a state grant, and 40% of ours is funded through general funds or locally. Students 17 or older are required to get parent permission. And here's one little caveat that's in policy we're looking to change is students who enroll in adult ed must officially withdraw from New Haven Public Schools. So if we do have a 17-year-old who's overaged, undercredited, or 18, 19-year-olds still enrolled in NHPS, they are officially have to withdraw, and hence that term dropout is present. We recognize that students, besides the diploma, they need a job, they need career paths. So we've introduced these pathways this year in these high demand sectors. Those include manufacturing, customer service. You can see those here. We're working on certificates. We're working on getting students the tools that they need simultaneously while earning their diploma. And if you scroll down, Doc, our community industry partners, we have launched satellite locations at Amazon in North Haven. Believe it or not, we have a lot of city residents who work at Amazon. So they're taking ESOL classes on site there. We've recently launched a partnership with Chabasso Bakery. So on site, actually at United Way, we have ESOL classes working there, and we have meetings with Gateway Terminal set up to support the citizens of our city who need help with English and to advance their career. And of course, we're working with Gateway and leveraging all the partnerships that New Haven Public Schools has with dual credit enrollment and trying to just speed up the process for adults. So finally, 2021-22, we call the year of hope and optimism. If you've never been to our graduation, it's this year is June 14th, 11 a.m. at Southern. I can tell you it is one of the most special events of the year because the journey wasn't so linear for our students. It's taken years and they get, it's very emotional and it's very powerful symbolically. And the last slide is that we envision, and what we're working towards is New Haven Adult Ed as this community learning hub, where we're introducing academic programs, of course, but supporting students mentally, physically, emotionally, adding that workforce training part, which we know is so essential, career counseling, and of course, digital literacy programs. So I don't know if we have time for questions, but if not, you're always willing to reach out to me personally. And again, the opportunity to tour or come on over, the door is always open.
Should I jump right in or?
I know. That was good, right? Fast?
We'll hold the questions until after all presentations.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, now we're going to have Edgewood School. Please go ahead, Dr. Perone.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for holding out this long. So just a compliment to Principal Benora. I've been to adult ed a number of times doing instructional rounds, and it's definitely worth the trip. It's truly a gem. So Dr. White, you can go pretty quickly through these. I'm just going to highlight a few words that were non-negotiables for our new vision. So inclusive, respecting all cultures, dismantling systems of racism and inequalities, and celebrating individuality and identity. And so these are things that we are making sure permeate into all aspects of the school. I'll be very quick with the data because I think it's probably similar in a lot of our schools, but certainly a GROW, we're using the iReady program with Fidelity, and I can't say enough about it. It's working well when you put in the time. And it's giving teachers what they need. So we're seeing the gains. You can see the green growing, the red getting smaller. But at the same time, with our middle school, we're seeing the greatest learning loss. So I think similar to Principal Benora, that this is a sounding or a cry for help. We're going to need more targeted interventions for middle and high school students for math and literacy, so that we prevent having more students, leaving the district to go to adult ed. We want to make sure that they complete their high school diploma. The next slide shows our literacy data. So similar, we're looking at this saying what we're doing with Fidelity is working, so we just have to do it more. So with small group instruction and progress monitoring, we see the biggest gains this year in 5th and 8th grade, but those are huge gains. They're significant. We are introducing a more targeted intervention program if it passes through what we're hoping for, and that's going to help. This is the iReady literacy part, and we're hoping that we can get that approved to pilot that because we would like to add that to our as another intervention. The next slide can be pretty quick. This is just highlighting our STEAM program. We're doing this with Fidelity, and I think that's worth noting. Despite all of the interruptions that we have all felt, despite the tremendous amount of coverage needs, students are still getting hands-on experiences. I think that is just a huge attribute for all the teachers who are working hard to make that happen. The next is attendance data. Again, this will be similar across the district, I'm sure. The spike in the middle of the year was the surge. We are seeing a tremendous number of students staying home. Chronic absenteeism is high, so that is impacting learning without a doubt. But the plus side is, and similar to what Wilbur Cross is doing with the next slide shows this, what Wilbur Cross is doing to engage students, to get them in, to help them catch up at times when they need to do that. We are implementing an ECHOS program. We've been doing it all year. This is just a short list of all of the different classes that we have offered to the students. It's supposed to encourage higher order thinking. This is really in place of our talented and gifted program that was offered to very few students. And instead we do a whole school enrichment. And so we develop and enhance the talents and the gifts of all of our children. I had the pleasure last week of taking a group of 20 8th graders kayaking, and I have to say that these were kids who, in some cases, have never kayaked before, have a fear of the water, and can't swim in a couple cases, and they did a fantastic job. And this is exactly what we need to be doing in our schools to explore different ways of learning. And the last two, really shout out. I'm sorry that Mr. Fiore had to leave the call because this goes directly to the letter that he wrote, or he read, I should say. And it connects to the idea of discussing policy with our students, but also to expose our school community to things that we need to know more about. So the first is that we just had a workshop for our staff at the school with Tony Ferriolo. Tomorrow night, we have a presentation that he's going to be giving to our parents and guardians. This was offered to additional families at other schools. I would invite members of the board that if you are interested, I would be happy to share with you the Zoom information. It's tomorrow night, and it was enlightening. I think it's definitely something that we all should be learning more about and being able to discuss in these forums. Last but not least, we had a very successful school, just say on that slide, a school-wide panel about the wearing of hats and hoods in school. This was not a discussion about dress code. This was a discussion about race and equity in our schools. We used the Courageous Conversations About Race protocol, and we had students, we had parents, Assistant Superintendent Velasquez was on there, and just want to send a special compliment to Nikisha Kador. This is someone who works in Cameo Thorne's department with restorative practice. She was our facilitator and has just been an absolute amazing addition to our team, and I'm sure all of the schools that she works with. So these are the kinds of conversations. Oh, and I should add, we had our entire middle school in person for this assembly, masks on, of course. But this was the first time in years that we've actually been able to do anything like that in person. And it went amazing. And it was because the topic was engaging and the kids wanted to talk more about this. So we're hoping to take the show on the road and possibly visit other schools, and certainly at Edgewood, dive into more topics that the students will engage with. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Perron.
And now we'll bring it home with Sound School.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank Dr. Tracy and the board. 2 years ago, you gave me the opportunity to be the principal of the school. I mentioned that night that it was my dream job. It's still my dream job. So I want to thank you very much. But enough about me. Let's talk about this amazing school. So we are the Sound School Regional Vocational Aquaculture Center. You can go down, Dr. White, thank you. We'll skip this video, but I wish, if anybody could take a minute later and check it out. It's one of our videos that we use to get students interested in the Sound School. So if you get a moment, check that out, please. As you can see, basically our vision and mission, it really just comes down to relationships, building relationships with kids, giving them an experience that although we use aquaculture and agriculture as a theme, we get students to be prepared for the real world. And the skills that they obtain at the Sound School, in some instances, some students don't even need to go to college. They can go right into industry and make really good money with the skills that we teach them there. Next slide, please. So Sound School was founded in 1982. This is our 40th year. In 1994, we were reassigned as the State Regional Vocational Aquaculture Center, and we are the largest comprehensive vocational aquaculture center in the state of Connecticut. We're located in City Point. Our facilities were completed in 2003 with the completion of the Foot Building. We have a 1/4 mile of shorefront campus. Our classrooms are actually out on the ocean, in the water, and in the greenhouse. Our enrollment currently, it's about 335 right now. We pull from 23 sending districts. It's going to be 24 next year when we bring Milford in. And just to give you a ratio, 60% of our students are from New Haven and 40% are from out of district. The demographics at the Sound School, as you can see, 335, we're about 40% white Caucasian, 40% Hispanic Latino, and only 12% Black African American. That's actually one of the things that I took on as building leader. We're trying to make our population reflect more of our demographics in New Haven. Next slide, please. And we're evenly distributed, male and female. I also want to go back, Dr. White, if you can, I'm sorry. We have a very high special ed and 504 population. Between special ed and 504, I believe that accounts for about 45% of our students. And I want to say our student services is second to none. And I think our hands-on approach that we have with our students allows for our students to be so successful where they might struggle in a large comprehensive, but at our school they shine. So at the Sound School, we are a career and tech ed school, agriculture, science, and technology education, which is ASTE. We use the agricultural education, classroom and laboratory instruction, work-based learning, and career and technical student organizations. ASTE programs incorporate hands-on active curriculum that integrates subject area skills and knowledge, applied skills to the core subjects of mathematics, science, English, language arts, incorporating leadership skills and work-based learning. One thing I also want to note is we meet regularly with our consulting committee. These are folks that are in the industries. So we invite them to the Sound School and we find out where are the jobs next year, where are the jobs 5 years from now, where are the jobs 10 years from now, so that we design our programming to meet those needs so our students are prepared to go into those fields when they leave us or if they choose to pursue secondary education before doing so. So I just want to show you some of the really cool stuff that we do. I just want to go back real quick. We graduate about 98% of our students every year, or 99. Some have to finish up in summer school, but we get about to, we got to 100% last year. And that's an testament to what we do. Again, that hands-on experience. I mean, you look at these pictures as I go through these slides. This, some schools, they try to do things like this to get students engaged. This is what we do every single day. So this is not just once a week, once a month. These students are in the lab sometimes 3 hours a day doing this. So, I think that's why kids love it, and kids, persevere through difficult times, and they finish strong. So go back real quick, Dr. White, I'm so sorry. So this is our aquaculture science. We have biotechnology, aquaculture life science, environmental, and underwater sciences. Yes, that student on the left is scuba diving. That is actually a class, and they do it during the course of the day. And that's our students raising lobsters on the right side. Go down, please. Marine technology, vessel operations. Our students drive the boat. We have a captain there, but he's only there if he has to jump in. Our students do the work. They charter SCSU, Yale, and all those folks when they do their scientific research. Our students are the ones that are operating the boat for them to go on those things. Marine mechanics, we fix our own stuff. We don't send them out to mechanics. Our kids learn how to fix it. Marine construction, marina operations, and ocean engineering. Earlier tonight, we learned that Dave Lowe and our ROV team is going to the national championship in Long Beach this year. So we're excited for that. Dr. Tracy, you see Island Rover. I still got to get you on that boat. Let me know when you want to go. Call me. Next slide, please. And then we have our agriculture science technology. So we use the Party greenhouse in Hamden. So that you can see in some of those pictures, our students are at the greenhouse doing their agriculture technology, plant technology, and horticulture. And then on the left picture there, you see a student practicing suturing. We have veterinary science at our school. Next slide. And also, Sound School doesn't end at 2:30 every day. We have enrichment programs on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays every week, and often on the weekends. Here's just some of the things that we offer: beekeeping, Saga, which is our Gay Straight Alliance, dive club, rowing, sailing, fishing, ROV, vet tech, aquarium maintenance, waterfront safety, and much, much more. We're constantly adding things. Go down. And there's our team, scuba diving, a wreck. Just some of the amazing stuff we do at Sound School. I know we don't have time for questions. I think I kept it under 5 minutes. You gave me a directive, Dr. White and Dr. Tracy. But please come on down to City Point. I'd love to show it off. It's a great school. We can go on the boat, take a ride. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, principals. I know I promised to go on the boat. You have to make sure I have my life vest on, though.
You're not allowed on it without one, Dr. Tracy.
Okay, so thanks for sharing. You guys are doing some amazing things at all 3 schools. Board members, do you have any questions of any of these principals or concerns or commendations?
Dr. Yarborough and then Mr. Bolton.
Thank you. Just a comment. I know you moved through it quickly. Just want to say that your impact is not lost on me. I appreciate seeing your work, your innovation, your leadership, and just the students being engaged day in and day out in what you do. And I look forward to learning more. So thank you so much for coming to share.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Mr. Bolton.
Great presentations, very informative. It's interesting what our children are doing now. First time I ever scuba dived, I was in my mid-20s on vacation in a Caribbean island. I mean, it's like I had to pay for it. I sure would have loved to be able to get it done in the school system at the cost of the school system. Just one quick question. Are you still in the market for chaperones for Long Beach? Thank you for the presentations.
You can make a donation to the GoFundMe page to help the kids go.
I will happily do that. Could you please send an email with the link?
And I also think that at adult ed, if you go in and see those English as a second language learners, parents, they are just so excited. Almost like their children again, trying to learn the language, and you go there, they try to greet you. It's like starting with little steps, and then they start moving on to getting more language acquisition. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I also see at Edgewood School, Dr. Nick believes a lot in outdoor things, and they set up a lot of outdoor activities for their students. It's just the amount of things that these people are doing that sometimes the negative things seem to take center stage at times. And there's so many things going on in these schools that are engaging for students. Yes, we have our challenges. We do have our challenges, but I think the great things happening outnumber the challenges that we had. I'm so proud of you three principals for making your presentations.
Yes, thank you all for the presentations. Mr. Wilcox?
Just really briefly, thank you for the presentations. And I really have been appreciating having these presentations again during these meetings where we are being able to hear and see, because each of the different schools are, being able to share what's going well and sharing some of the challenges and some of the data. It's just have all been really great. And these tonight, these are, special schools for me. I was just at a college graduation where my middle kid graduated with an engineering degree. And in part, it was because he started out his New Haven school career at Edgewood, and then he finished it at Sound School. And that hands-on learning is what made it click in his head of, being able to work on that boat. He loved to be down in the engine compartment or whatever, where it was extra dirty. And I'm just really happy that we're not only here, but, the school system has been investing in outdoor gardens where kids are able to get their hands dirty now, at pre-K kids at Mayo and other schools, and manufacturing program coming up at Hill House. And so it's being able to enmesh in the traditional book learning, the hands-on learning is just so helpful. And I especially appreciate also that adult education is part of this system too, because we have plenty of kids that become adults that, it's never too late. And so I've always appreciated that message that's been very consistent from the principal and others, that it's never too late. You can do it, and you can do it at New Haven Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you,
That
Mr.
ends my
Wilcox.
presentation, Madam President. I know it's been an awful long evening, but I think it was worth it. Thank you so much.
It was. Thank you, Dr. Tracy. For my part, there is no
Madam
president's report
President?
at this meeting.
Madam President,
Go
just
ahead, Mr.
quickly, I don't know if you missed it, but I really would like to get a link to that GoFundMe page so I can make a donation.
Yep.
So whoever is responsible, please forward that to me. Thank you.
Mr. Perron,
Potowski.
Mr. Potaski, Mr. Potaski?
Yes.
Mr. Potaski, we'll send it to Dr. White, who will then forward it to the board members on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcox?
And if I may just add to that, not just this one, but, the others, I know that people are using GoFundMe pages and things like that. And if we had more access to those, or if we knew how to, if they were brought to our attention, and I'm sure us, as just like any other member of the public, are going to be wanting to, throw in on some of these projects. So if there was a way, either direct us to a link where they all are, or if, please feel free to, send that out to us. Thank you.
Yes, we'll get which ones are in the district, and we can probably find a place on our webpage to direct the public to it.
Thank you. Head Start report, Mr. Wilcox?
All right, I will be brief with the Head Start report. We did not meet this last week. That was so that staff would be able to continue to prepare for the Focus Area 2 review, which is happening this week. It was also because I had a conflict due to health procedure, and I'll just remind everybody, do not neglect your colonoscopy and other preventative maintenance exams. Enough said there, but just to let you know, the Focus Area 2 stuff is happening, and they are being very thorough and are meeting with many parts of the school district and many parts of the financial parts of the school district as well. So not only the Head Start folks, but so that is happening this week. So I know staff has been in endless Zoom meetings preparing for this, but are now this week meeting, and I think they're meeting with all segments of the school district, the policy council, which is the parent group, and so on. So that's Head Start.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Citywide School Building Committee report.
I think no really report on that. We did meet on as plans, and as usual, I'll remind everybody the comprehensive report that Mr. Lamb and his team puts together on various major projects in the district is posted on that page and is always informative.
Thank you. And finance and operations.
Again, I'll be brief. Finance and operations, we did meet. We already talked about the action items and approved those. In addition to that, we had the financial report, which is posted. Still a deficit forecasted for this year, but Ms. Hannons did talk about all the various ways that they're working towards mitigating that. And then Dr. Tracy also said that once we know the outcome of the alders decisions on the city budget, then they'll be able to present some information as to what to do with the projected deficit for next year, so that we can have is what we're supposed to have an on-balance budget. So in addition to that, we did start the process, as you all know, we approved or accepted rather the SRO report last year. So we did start to take a look at a policy for SRO, and we're doing a little bit of legwork here to send on to the governance committee around an SRO policy. And the district's in the process of a memorandum of understanding with the police force, the police department rather. And so we are taking a look at that. I anticipate that being on the agenda for the next meeting as well, where we will also have the model policy from the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, as well as what the current MOU is, and we'll be posting that on the other materials section of the finance and operations site.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Any questions or comments for Mr. Wilcox on any of those? Okay.
Thank you.
Governance report, Dr. Benitez.
Yes, we will have our next meeting on June 6th. At the moment, we're asking everybody who's working on policies that they would like us to take a look at to forward those to us. We also want to encourage those of you who are working on policy that we have provided you with a timeline to let Ms. Tiffany Jackson know where you are in that process, so that we have an idea when things will be getting to us. And we thank you for the hard work on this, because it takes a lot of reading in order to work on updating policy. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Any questions for Dr. Benitez? Okay, Food Service Task Group, Dr. Yarborough.
Yes, thank you. The task group met and we reviewed the 300 meals shared with families during the April break, and what went well and what were the adjustments from the winter break. So I'm grateful for the team's work, the partners' work, and our leaders in food services for the district. The district food service team is also working on solidifying the 70+ sites for summer lunch. And we also initiated area partner conversations to explore strategies for food sustainability and climate health. So we'll continue that work in those conversations to see what we can do and what may be put into policy in order to sustain our efforts. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Questions for Dr. Yarborough? Okay, and with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez. Dr. Benitez, is he still on?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
students are not here, Mr. Goldson.
It's been a pleasure, but yes.
Thank you. And I'm a yes as well. Good night, everyone, and thank you.